Well, folks, we have some breaking news out of the state of California. Kamala Harris, the former vice president, announced she will not be running for the California governor's election in 2026. This will end months of speculation after her really crushing defeat in the 2024 presidential election to now President Donald Trump. This decision exposes that Harris's weak political instincts are still alive. She is dodging a race that she could have dominated, revealing that she is about as lazy and unwilling as a candidate to fight. She is lazy and unwilling. Her refusal to run reeks of fear as the 2024 loser label clings to her, with voters still skeptical of her flip-flopping record. But folks, we are going to dive into exactly why Kamala Harris is not running and what this means for the 2028 presidential election. Now, Harris released a statement on X yesterday saying that after deep reflection, it led to her choice, saying that her leadership won't be in elected office for now. For now, it won't be in elected office. If you want a translation, she's avoiding the grind of state politics after a national embarrassment in 2024. Her team admits that she is eyeballing a 2028 presidential run instead, showing she is more interested in the personal ambitions than the actual logistical smart move to make here. The smart move is to run for California governor in 26 because she would most likely win. And then look at presidential ambitions down the road. You need to take a step back to take a step forward. And considering that she was probably the worst vice president in American history and the worst presidential candidate in American history, shows exactly that she does not have the political instincts that is required to be president of the United States. And this decision just shows it. This decision is more evidence to that reality. She reportedly is also considering starting a nonprofit or a political action committee, but those definitely feel like half-hearted attempts to somehow stay relevant with no serious accountability associated with staying relevant. Now, we know during 2024, Kamala Harris's campaign was a disaster. Over $1.5 billion spent, yet she lost every single swing state to the current president, Donald Trump. They lost Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. They lost it all. They lost it all. Simply put, look at how the country shifted from 2020 to 2024. Almost every state shifted to the Republican Party and Donald Trump. Some of the biggest shifts were in places like New York, like California, in deep red places like Kentucky, like Iowa, like Florida, like Georgia. Now, Democrats did have some shifts in probably the most progressive suburban area in America, which is obviously the suburban area outside of Atlanta. But this is what you got. This is what you got. And now her absence from, California, obviously she would have probably been a terrible governor. We know she's out of touch with her home state. She's out of touch with the actual policies and issues that day-to-day Americans deal with. Now, governing a state like California, you'd probably be even more out of touch than your typical politician because it's California. They're so out of touch with America as it is, it probably wouldn't help her. But the fact that she is so out of touch with even people from her own state of California, a place where she calls home but really hasn't lived there for the last 10 to 15 years on any consistent basis. This just shows she is not a top-tier competitor like people thought she was. And I guess no one really thought that. Everyone knew she was picked because she was a woman and she was black. That was the only reason. That was the only reason she was picked. It shows she does not have the political instincts, the political instincts that are required to lead a country forward. And thank God she is not the president right now. Because running for governor in 2026 would have rebuilt her image, would have given her a platform to prove that she was actually halfway competent before another White House bid. California's governorship offers a national stage as they're like the 6th or 7th largest economy on their own. But Harris, still stinking of the major 2024 loss, lacks the grit to take it on. And her name recognition and fundraising power would have made her a frontrunner in this state, even though there were some Democrats who felt very lukewarm about the idea of her running. She still would have been the frontrunner. But yet she is too lazy. She's just too inept to seize the opportunity when it presents itself. Because the reality is she is eyeing up 2028. She is betting on a 2028 presidential run, which is a risky move when Democrats and independents and Republicans see her a relic of a losing campaign. That's what she is. She's a relic of a losing campaign. You want to talk about how she really has no political instincts? Look at this. Listen to how stupid this lady is. She just released a book called 107 Days, and it's about the shortest presidential campaign in American history. 107 days? 107 days of being the biggest fucking loser in America is more what it's like. Just take a listen.
Of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. The shortest presidential campaign in modern history. It was intense, high stakes, and deeply personal. For me...
Yeah, it was high stakes, and you lost everything. You went all in and you lost everything. You didn't even win a swing state. The entire country shifted away from you. Some of the most liberal places in America shifted away from you. But I'll let you keep talking.
And for so many of you. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days. Talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 Days. With candor and reflection, I've written a behind-the-scenes account of that journey.
How lame. How could a Democrat look at this and be like, yep, this is what I want in 2028. Yep, this is exactly what I would like. It's like, it's ridiculous. Just look at the polling. The polling tells the whole picture. Roughly 1 out of every 5 Democrat primary voters would like Kamala Harris to be the nominee. Now, ultimately, we know polling this far out it has more to do with name recognition than really anything. They recognize the big names like Harris, like Buttigieg, like AOC, like Newsom. Those are the big names that are out there. But ultimately, this is very clear too, on the flip side, that 4 out of every 5 Democrat primary voters do not want Kamala Harris to be the nominee in 2028. It's as simple as that. They do not want her. It is clear, even Pete Buttigieg, who has led in the last 2 or 3 Atlas Intel polls here. You have the one from May, the one from July, the one from April. Pete Buttigieg has led in every single one, and yet he has basically zero support in these polls among the minority communities, among African Americans, which is just ridiculous. How can he be lead? But that's where he's at. That's where he's at right now. But at this point, for the gubernatorial election in California, this basically, it's going to be a show where they're going to compete without her. That's the reality here. And her absence is going to avoid, for now, a repeat of the 2024 failures. It's like, we know that she would have been hammered hard. How did you not know what was going on with Biden? How did you not see the cognitive decline? What did you know? Did you know that Joe Biden had metastatic prostate cancer? How long? People say it can take 8 to 10 years for it to develop to that. Stage 4, metastatic prostate cancer. And you didn't know anything. You didn't know a damn thing. But, like we said, at this point, she did say in this New York Times article, which is actually, both of these are very good articles you can go ahead and read. She hinted at a quote-unquote listen-in tour, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean, and helping Democrats in the 2026 midterms, which obviously is a very vague plan. It lacks any substance. We know almost every other Democrat candidate has been more active than she has. Buttigieg, he's been going across the country, been in Iowa, been in South Carolina, going on podcasts where he knows that the audience is not going to be friendly towards him. He's going uncomfortable, oh my goodness gracious, uncomfortable podcasts, places where he knows his policies are not favorable to the audience. Even the same thing with AOC. She's going across the country on her Fight in the Oligarchy tours. She raised $10 million in quarter 1 and almost $6 million in quarter 2. She's raised more money than the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. She has more cash on hand than Mike Johnson's raised this year. Same thing with Hakeem Jeffries. She's raised like 3 times as much as Hakeem Jeffries has raised this year. Even look at people like Cory Booker. As much as it's just theatrics, at the end of the day, that's what the Democrat Party wants right now. They want the theatrics. They love the theatrics. He's even getting out there and going on having these absolute meltdowns on camera on the Senate floor. At least they're doing something. Kamala Harris is nowhere to be seen. Gavin Newsom has gone to South Carolina, a key primary battleground state, going into the 2028 Democrat primaries. Same thing with Tim Walz. Tim Walz was the keynote speaker at the 2025 Democrat convention. When Kamala Harris was considered to be the front runner, she didn't even show up. Tim Walz showed up. Even Gretchen Whitmer has done more. Every single candidate here has done more as far as actually laying the groundwork, laying the infrastructure that's required to run a 2028 presidential run, a Democrat primary bid, every single candidate has put in more effort and more work than Kamala Harris. And it's not even close. The reality is she will stink as of a loser. She was the big loser. And you're going to release a book 107 days? I don't know how much you had to drink the day that you decided that you were going to do this, but you really need to tune it down. You're really, really? Who the hell wants to read about literally the worst presidential campaign someone has ever run in American history? They had $1.5 billion and they pissed it all away. You paid Megan Thee Stallion, $5 or $10 million to come twerk on stage for 20 minutes. Yeah, that's going to win over the voters you need. That's going to win over the working class voters. That's going to win over the young men. That's going to win over the Hispanic Americans who shifted away from the Democrat Party by 20 points in the 2024 election. That's how you're going to win back Asian Americans. Asian Americans, that's exactly what they want to see. They want to see Megan Thee Stallion twerking on stage at a presidential rally, at a rally for Kamala Harris. That's exactly how Asians are going to come back to the Democrat Party. That's exactly it. But a 2028 presidential run is very much in the cards and very possible. But she'll need to overcome, if she wants to have any chance of doing any damage in 28, she needs to overcome this 2024 loser stigma and convince voters that she's not just a flip-flopper. Look, she ran on these policies her entire life. And then she gets to the 2024 election and flip-flops on every single one of them and says that her values have not changed. Like, what? She went on The View. They give her a softball question. What would you do differently from Biden? What would you do differently? Not a darn thing, she says. Not a darn thing. Really? You couldn't think of one thing? You're the most disastrous pullout from Afghanistan in 2021. You wouldn't change anything? There were over a dozen service members that died, and you wouldn't do anything different? You wouldn't do anything different. You tried to lock down the country for another year and a half after the pandemic was over. You tried to forcefully vaccinate 100 million people with an experimental vaccine that did not do anything. It did not stop transmission. It did not stop people from being hospitalized. It's as simple as that. And you wouldn't do a single thing differently. You are a fucking retard. That's what you are. You are mentally fucking retarded if to say that. And you do not deserve to be anywhere near the Oval Office if that is the answer to your question. Honest to God. You deserve nothing. You should go home and sip on the wine the rest of your life, because that's the peak of your life going forward. You will never be in elected office ever again. Ever again. It's never going to happen. But this decision to skip the 2026 gubernatorial election just confirms all of our thoughts, not even our suspicions. It confirms reality. She's a lazy candidate. She's an inept individual. She is. She is not a smart politician. Any smart politician would have looked at the cards, looked at reality, and believed and know that this was the right move. California was the right move. Because by dodging the governorship, she's betting on a risky 2028 comeback. But her flip-flopping stances in the past and weak leadership make that an extremely long shot. And California deserves someone better than a 2024 loser who cannot commit to really fixing the state's challenges. But, folks, as always, this is going to wrap things up for today. Kamala Harris is not running for the gubernatorial election in California in 2026. She will run for president in 2028. I'm calling it right now. So, folks, drop down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And, folks, we will catch you next time.